Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are in the globe. I am Madan Rehani. I am immediate past president of IOMP and currently president of International Union for Physical and Engineering Sciences in Medicine, IUPSM. There are already almost 1,000 participants and we should get going on time. There has been a scheduling conflict and I am supposed to be at another meeting right at this time. So it was deemed appropriate to set the ball rolling and leave it to Professor Chougule, who will carry on with the session, which is a very important session, both as a topic as well as the speakers involved who are highly accomplished. Regarding the few words about Professor Arun Chougule, who will be carrying on with the session. He is chair of our Education and Training Committee of IOMP. He has been member board of director of IMPCB, immediate past president of AFOMP. Also, he was president of AMPI of India. He was senior professor of radiological physics at a hospital in Jaipur in India. He has also been dean of the faculty of paramedical sciences of a university in Rajasthan in India, fellow of National Academy of Medical Sciences, and also has been dean of student welfare and pro-chancellor of a university. With these few words, I will let Arun carry on with the session. Arun, to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Madan Rehani, for your kind words. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as the place you are in. Welcome to International Medical Physics Week, IMPW 2025. We are in day 3, webinar 3. And all these 5 webinars are devoted to AI and machine learning. Today's webinar is Innovating Medical Physics Education with Artificial Intelligence. And as you know, artificial intelligence and machine learning has touched and revolutionized all fields of the human life, including healthcare, including medical physics, and also the medical education. Medical education has been enhanced by learning through data-driven insight and simulation training. And these technologies has personalized the learning experience, automated image analysis, and so on and so forth. AI-powered tools are there to simulate the real world in the clinic, and we can improve the decision-making skills, support development, innovative diagnostic and therapeutic technique. By integrating artificial intelligence and machine learning, medical physics education becomes more interactive, more fruitful, more aligned to the modern clinical practice. We have today 2 very eminent speakers for this webinar. One is Professor Issam Naqa, and he will be talking on leveraging artificial intelligence in training next generation medical physicists. And second is Professor Maryellen who will be talking about perspective on how AI could impact medical physics education and practice. I will introduce briefly. They are very well-known figures in their field. They do not need introduction, but as a customary, I will just have few words about them. Professor Issam Naqa is a distinguished expert in medical physics, oncology, and machine learning. He is the chair of the machine learning department of Moffitt Cancer Center and professor at University of South Florida. Holding a PhD in electrical and computer engineering, he has contributed extensively to radiotherapy, radiomics, and AI in oncology. He has secured numerous research grants, published over 200 papers, and mentored many students. A fellow of IEEE and AAPM and AIMBE, he has received prestigious awards and holds editorial roles in major scientific journals. And today I was listening that he has another meeting concluded that he is editorial board, but he is sparing time here. His research focuses on AI-driven clinical decision making, and adaptive radiotherapy. Another speaker is also very distinguished speaker, Professor Maryellen Geiger, and she is Ian Pritzker Distinguished Service Professor in Radiology at University of Chicago, specialized in medical physics, imaging, science, and AI application in radiology. A leader in computer-aided diagnosis, she has contributed extensively to breast cancer detection and risk assessment. She has also held numerous leadership roles, including past president of AAPM, SPIE, Fellow of IEE, AIMBE, AAPM, member of National Academy of Engineering. She has received multiple prestigious awards. Professor Geiger has published extensively, secured significant research funding, and mentored many students, making significant contribution to radiomics, quantitative imaging, and AI-driven precision. So we have today two very distinguished expert speakers to talk on the aspect of AI and machine learning in medical physics education. Now, we'll have question answer at the end of both talk. So please put your questions into Q&A and not into the chat box because they will be lost. Again, I repeat, please put your question in Q&A so that we take up those questions and we find some explanation and satisfy you. So with this short introduction, I invite Professor Issam Naqa for the talk. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chougule, for this very kind introduction and for the opportunity to be part of this prestigious webinar, as well as sharing this panel with Professor Geiger. Is truly an honor and a privilege. I'll be talking about AI and its role in the training in the next generation of medical physics, and vice versa, how medical physics could be also leader in this emerging technology. These are my disclosures. The learning objectives is just in order to level the stage here, some brief introduction to AI machine learning. It describes the various roles of AI in medical physics, the status of AI education in medical physics would be a core part of this presentation, as well as recognize the main challenges for AI clinical implementations. I heard also yesterday there was a debate regarding whether AI is going to replace our jobs as medical physicists, and I'll touch base on that and actually present a contrary vision to this idea. So let's start by this acronym AI, ML, and DL. Artificial intelligence actually talks about the systems that is composed of the hardwares and the softwares. It's actually originated in the 1950s, was called in a summer school at Dartmouth College. Machine learning as a concept actually began in the 1960s, and it deals with the computer algorithms that actually learn for data. So it constitutes the brain that drives AI systems. Deep learning is a subcategory of machine learnings that deal directly with the raw data rather than derived features of it. Typically, there is this Venn diagram that shows the relationship between deep learning, machine learning, and AI. Deep learning is part of machine learning, and machine learning is the computer algorithms that drives AI systems. Typically, the focus we have is on the machine learnings, which are the computer algorithms themselves, and that's practically where the role of medical physicists actually becomes more prominent. Well, I want to emphasize this idea that AI and machine learning is actually a science in the pure sense of this word. Typically, when we talk about AI and machine learning, we talk about in the context of data science or computer science. We are adding science as an adjective to the whole descriptions, but it is actually recognized as a pure science on its own. This is the Nobel Prize in Physics given last year to two preeminent founders of the field, Professor Hinton and Professor Hopfield. I'll talk a little bit about both gentlemen, as well as it was also recognized by this a Nobel Prize in chemistry. And this one is particularly amazing because it is recognizing a software tool development, albeit being a unique applications for protein structure predictions, which actually a very unique development in the field is transformative. It's not only about the history, but also about the present, and our software tool can actually change a whole field. So some of the concepts related to AI is the distinction between the two major types, which is conventional machine learning and deep learning. In conventional machine learning, the typical practice is to extract some features, then selects the most relevant features, then apply your typical classifiers relating the inputs to the outputs. In deep learning, what happened, these different steps are actually combined into a single framework, typically using neural network architectures. One of the most common type of architectures is these convolutional neural networks. An example is shown here. You have a PET-CT image. This is a region of interest. These convolutional layers acts as feature selector extractors, and the pooling layers act as a feature extractors. Then you apply your favorite type learning algorithms. In this case, happen to be a classifier between what's malignant and what's benign using a fully connected neural networks. There are several textbooks in this area, and this is our contribution to that domain. When we're talking about deep learning and machine learning, there are numerous architectures. Almost on a daily basis, there is a new architecture actually coming to fruition. The basic one is this multi-layer perceptron, which is actually a way to mimic how our brain functions by connecting inputs and outputs. The convolutional neural networks I mentioned earlier, this CNN, it has a prominent applications in imaging and computer visions type. Now, when you are dealing with sequences, especially time, recurrent neural networks, and this is what the major contribution of Professor Hopfield that earned him actually the Nobel Prize, because this one also led to another architecture called the transformer, which is a backbone for many current applications. Autoencoders has been around so long the field has been around, and it's used for data representations. And this is one of the breakthrough in the field, which is what's called generative adversarial neural networks, which is pitting two neural networks against each other, a generator and a discriminator, and it's widely used for synthetic data generation. Now, we cannot talk about AI and machine learning without the mention of generative AI and foundation models. Foundation models is this concept idea of large scale AI models that can actually be adapted to different tasks through agents, whether these agents act independently or collaboratively. Now, this is in the more general domain application. Now, if you project that into the medical domain, it is also dealing with heterogeneous data and this concept of multimodal AI, where you have different resources, whether it is the clinical data, the images, the genetics, and so on. Then you develop this large scale foundation models that can project into different tasks, whether it's patient-facing or actually physician-facing applications. Now, sure, all of you are familiar with these large language models as a concept, which is part of this idea of foundation models, but with focus on text. Two of the prominent applications is called the BERT and the GPT, and they are based on this transformer architecture, which is actually that recurrent part of that recurrent neural networks with the addition of this attention mechanism, as well as the 6 ones of encoding process associated with it. BERT, developed by Google, is an encoder-decoder type design, and it's actually excel in classification, text classification problems. The GPT is more a conversational AI. It's a decoder only design, and it's very good in predicting what would be the next word on the next expression coming through. Now, there has been a resurgence in the size of these large-scale networks, starting by the original transformer presented by Google, going through the OpenAI chat GPT, reaching about 170 billion. And Google for a while has been teasing out a transformer designs that exceed a trillion type parameters. However, whether we need all these number of parameters for medical applications remain an open idea. This is a paper that I shared with Professor Geiger about actually the 125th anniversary for the BGR journal and the role of AI. It presents two types of application for medical physicists. One is the diagnostics, and the other one is the therapeutics. And in both cases, showing the workflow associated with the AI applications and of the medical physics workflow in both cases. And in each step along the way, there is an AI applications, whether it is in the imaging reconstruction, imaging denoising, detection, characterization, and even monitoring. Similarly, in the case of radiotherapy, whether this is the auto-contouring application, dose prediction for treatment planning, or quality assurance. At that time, this is how the curve looked like about progression in the field, whether it's radiation oncology or radiology, and you can see radiology has been leading the way. And this figure, if you want to extrapolate, actually will go again into an exponential, still going strong at an exponential type curve. There was a round table that actually Dr. Geiger and colleagues organized at the APM, focusing on the pioneering role of medical physicists in AI. And you can see it traces back, particularly in the area of medical imaging, back to the 1960s. And you see seminal contributions, particularly in computer-aided detection and diagnosis, with many names that you can recognize. Followed suit is application in therapy as well. Medical physics actually pioneers important area related to AI developments, which is standardization of data and communications, like the DICOM used for imaging applications. Also, development of rigorous evaluation tool that's still used in many machine learning applications. As such, the de facto for classification is to use these ROC curve, as well as developing reference standards for imaging. And there is a lot of talk currently about synthetic data and data generations. Phantom is one example used for many medical on radiotherapy applications. So we would like to continue that road of excellence in leading AI development, not only in the fields that are closely related to medical physics, but also in medicine in general. So institutions like Moffitt took notice of that and established the first machine learning departments. And they assigned a medical physicist, and another actually medical physicist joined us recently for building their departments and lead its clinical implementation for a translatable work. And that's pretty much the focus of the department. It's developing these patient-centered machine and deep learning algorithm and ensure that they actually translate into the bedside as well. So it's actually from the computer to the bedside versus the bench to the bedside that's typically used. Some sample applications, radiological sciences, of course, radiomics, looking at PET MRI, try to predict metastasis to the lung in sarcomas. Outcome modeling, which is an area closely work with, where you take multimodal input, whether it's the clinical input, imaging, and genetic, to predict response to radiotherapy treatment, in this example for lung cancer. And adaptive radiotherapy, which is trying to change the schedule of the radiation delivery based on these predictive models by optimizing what would be an optimal dose per fractions using techniques like reinforcement learning. So in order to facilitate that mission of translation, we've been developing software tools. This is one of these software tools developed by Dipesh in our group, pretty much having this machine learning algorithm that does prediction and optimizing decision-making for scheduling of fractionation delivery. One of the key areas that we wanted to look at is how this relationship between AI and actually clinical providers, in this case, happen to be radiation oncologists and medical physicists, actually forms. So we conducted this study about human AI interaction, looking at this collaborative relationship, or this relationship in general between AI and the clinical decision maker. So we looked at two distinct use cases. One was dose escalation in non-small cell lung cancer, and the other one is actually a split course in liver cancer. This study was conducted at two institutions with participations of 13 radiation oncologists at different levels. Some of them actually volunteered to work on both sides, so we have 17, and they were asked questions regarding the use of AI and their decision-making process before seeing the AI and after seeing the AI. There was 1,440 data points for analysis. Without going into much more detail to the different aspects associated with it, the take-home messages were there are multiple factors that influence this human AI when you have a high-risk decision-making process with unknown output. This could be the disease itself, the evaluator expertise, the patient status, and the perception of AI. Some clinicians, for instance, were not actually embraced the technology of AI and rejected outward many of the AI decisions. Others, and these luckily were the majority, actually took every AI decision making and analyzed it thoroughly in order to ensure that is acting in the benefit of the patients as they have perceived it. More details you can find in the paper itself. Now, a key component for us, which is emphasizing this over and over again, is the translation of AI into clinical practice. There are multiple requirements for this. Some of them are obvious, the hardware, the software. There's the data modeling, and it is suitability. There are regulations, there are ethics and governance, and which is very important topics for safe AI implementations, although I will not cover this topic, but it could be something to look at for a future discussion. Now let's look about AI medical physics education current status. There is actually efforts, and the IAEA has been leading many of these efforts. That's actually a report for artificial intelligence in medical physics, also talking about AI and AI educations. The report itself tends to have a comprehensive and brief condensed type review that was reviewed actually nicely by Dr. Chougule. However, one of the aspects that I thought could have been beneficial to add is having a plan, structured the plan of how it's going to be done, which I thought it was lacking. However, an interesting part of the articles is the continuous educations and keeping tab with what's going on in the AI field in this table shown here. Talking about AI education for clinicians, one need to recognize that there are different needs depending on the role of these clinical members in the whole medical process. And this is a nicely actually structured article around these topics by asking what is the role of that clinical providers and what is the level of education that is required for them. Along the way, there need to be some basic skills associated with that, which is the practical ability to use clinical AI tools, which is something we all agree on. The other level, it is having professional skills. And this is, I think, where the majority of clinical medical physicists would fit in order to ensure that AI applications are actually implemented safely and being monitored during the course of their implementations. And there is that expert skills when somebody would like to do R&D with AI applications. This multi-tier type approach would have more practical results, as well as would lead to more effective utilization of people time and how they are actually working with AI tools. Looking in the literature, actually, that was also recognized by medical physics group, particularly focusing on imagings, where they looked at the two-tier type approach, a basic level type of training when dealing with existing AI tools, and a more advanced level while trying to monitor the performance of these AI tools or actually working in the research area. Now, The things that I also noticed when looking at this literature, that some of these educational applications were driven by PhDs only or driven by MDs only. So not to be undone, this comes actually from the RSNA, and they look at the different resources available for radiologists in this case. Radiation oncologists looked at a similar type aspects, which is what would be useful for radiation oncologists. But in both cases, we recognize we work as team, physicists plus physicians. This is an idea we tried to emphasize actually at a workshop that was sponsored by the NCI a few years ago, bringing all the well, as many as we can of the stakeholders into the table, which is the clinicians, the physicists, as well as computer science experts, starting by creating awareness, then discussing existing resources and what would be needed for the individual clinical practitioner to be successful in the AI utilization. Now, that topic you've discussed yesterday, but I want to quickly touch base on it. This is actually originally originated from Professor Hinton, which he said, pretty much paraphrasing this, that people should stop training radiologists because deep learning is going to replace radiologists. And you can extrapolate this idea to any other medical physics, any related clinical professions where AI started to play a more prominent role. The answer came out quickly from radiology colleagues here was embraced with the RSNA that radiologists who use AI will replace radiologists who don't, emphasizing the importance of having AI of part of the training of every clinical profession, of course, the ones that is touched most like radiology applications. So I wanted to have some an unbiased witness, so to speak. So ask ChatGPT, what does it think about that question, whether AI will replace medical physicists? The answer was it's actually going to transform the role of medical physicists and not replace, with interestingly ideas that medical physicists are expected to oversee and validate AI models, bridge the clinical and the computational domains, and lead the implementation of monitoring of AI tool, as well as ensuring interpretability and reliability of the AI output. So it's kind of an augmentation process where AI is going to augment our role. That's actually a key component aspects. Medical physicists are well known for their safety prowess and implementation of quality assurance for different tools, whether it's software or hardware in the clinic. And through these different aspects that have been developed since the 1970s, which is acceptance testing, commissioning, quality assurance, and continuous quality assurance improvement. And we took this concept working with two prominent medical physicists, Dr. Tenhaken and Dr. Moran, and tried to project it into AI applications. And you can see a lot of parallels when looking at the different use cases, that these ideas that are well ingrained in medical physics development can be actually generalized and applied for AI implementation in the clinics, making the medical physicists guardian of that such development. So take-home messages that would like to share with you that AI machine learning offer new opportunities to develop better understanding of medical physics and its workflow. There are variations in these different algorithms, and that's where education becomes important, because there are differences in accuracy, interpretability, and the choices we make in order to use these different tools. Medical physicists historically have been pioneers that include our colleague, Dr. Geiger, in that area. And they are also expected to lead its future R&D in medical applications. However, I think that when we look at the educational aspects of it, we need to approach it as a multi-tier curriculum, or as a more practical approach for educating the next generation of medical physicists, depending on their clinical roles, so it is better served. However, in any case, there need to be collaborations between the different stakeholders. That include our colleagues, clinicians, biologists, of course, the data scientists, as well as regulatory and vendors. with the purpose of having safer and more beneficial AI application in biomedicine. And also emphasize what you probably already reached that conclusions, that jobs are not created or eliminated by AI, but they are definitely transformed. And this is a quote by Fifi Lee, one of the pioneers in the field, that the future of artificial intelligence is not about man versus machine, but it's rather about man working / woman working with machine. Together we can achieve unimaginable heights, innovation, and progress. And by this, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Issam, for covering from the starting the AI and machine learning from radiology to radiation oncology, precision oncology, decision making into clinics, and also you have touched the IAEA, the TCS 83 document about the medical physics education and AI. And also last, the sentence you made, it's not going to create or eliminate the job, it is going to transform. That is the take-home message, I think. We'll have questions at the end of the second talk, and all those things, questions are pouring in. Now I hand over the floor to Professor Maryellen, one of the renowned professor into the medical physics and radiology and contribution to AI. Maryellen, floor is yours now.
Thank you. I'm just moving this off my screen. So I'm happy to follow. That was a great overview from Professor Naqa. And now my talk is on perspective. Perspective is like I can give you my opinions, my views on how AI could impact medical physics education and practice. Let me go, why is that here? My funding and conflicts, and my learning objectives for that. First, appreciate the role of data in the development, testing, and use. Understand the impact that AI could have on medical physics education and clinical practice, and learn the role of the medical physicists in clinical practices utilizing AI. So I'm going to cover these 4 points. First, I'm going to focus on AI in medical physics involves development of quantitative analysis for task-based discovery, predictive modeling, robust clinical translation, as well as methods to improve the efficiencies of the clinical practice workflow. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. The prior speaker did a nice overview of that, but I just want to, and I'm coming at this from a diagnostic department, where the prior speaker was from more of a therapy department. So the focus here for me is that AI is being applied to images that are clinically and routinely obtained in the population, because we want to understand the questions about the relationship between features seen in medical images and the biology of disease, so we can eventually detect, diagnose disease early, and give the right patient the right treatment at the right time. So there's a lot of AI in that. However, there's AI in improving image reconstruction, improving the efficiency and workflow of diagnostic and therapy department, as well as in biomarker discovery, such as in diagnostic. So let's first visualize how this might work. A patient undergoes imaging. The images are evaluated using an FDA-approved AI system for a specific clinical task and intended population. A report provides the AI system's prediction on the patient's outcome, and then the provider, the clinician, uses the AI system as one component in their decision-making. It might be a predictive aid used by radiologists or a primary reader to help in triaging. A few important points I list here at the bottom. We need to make sure the data, both in the training and the using of it, is representative. We need to understand how the end user will use the AI output and understand the responsibility of the AI system as well as the AI user, and not to use AI off-label. And we can discuss more of that later. So medical physicists have a responsibility to learn and understand the process of the development and evaluation of AI/ML. And medical physicists are well suited for that, because that's what physicists do. We solve problems and we do rigorous evaluation. I bring this paper up as a potential starting point. If this is new to you, it's the APM Task Group Report 273. I like this slide because it covers many aspects that as a medical physicist, we need to be aware of and involved in. So in an AI algorithm, it's very important to understand what is your input. For example, how was the image formed? What was the manufacturer? These are the data. Understand the data, because garbage in, garbage out. You want to make sure the data is representative, but also that you can harmonize it across acquisition system, institutions, populations, and all. You need to be able to understand the AI algorithm, whether it's human engineered or deep learning. And you need to understand the clinical question. What is being asked for this use of this AI system? And then how is it going to be used by the end user? If it's a secondary reader and it's being used erroneously as a primary reader, that could cause problems. And there's much of out there is as an aid to the radiologist, but there's some as partial primary, such as in triage, putting the most urgent cases up front, or rule out, such as in cancer screening, where perhaps the AI is so good that it could say 30% do not need to, are so normal, they do not need to be seen by a human. And of course, medical physicists are also very good in assessing and evaluating. What is the metrology and the statistics? How do we monitor performance? So we have a big role. Now, I want to just give one example. This is not an overview. This is a perspective. For example, here at MIDRC, we have the AI reliability tool. MIDRC is midrc.org. There's lots of stuff there for medical physicists. This is an example where you could go, and this helps researchers and users understand biases that might occur in AI. And this will guide you through spotting sources of trouble, suggest ways to reduce them. And there's other tools out there, but I think it's important for the medical physicists to seek out these tools to help them understand the potential ways that AI could cause trouble. Okay. In these AI developments, it's so important to have curated and representative data. And it's important that the training data sets match the testing sets, as well as the intended population of how you will be using the AI. You might ask, what is hindering more clinical use of AI? Well, partially it's the data. Medical physicists have a responsibility to learn the importance of data in the training and testing of AI. For example, during COVID, so many people were pulling down COVID images. Sometimes there was leakage between training and testing. And in fact, there were articles on hundreds of AI tools have been built to catch COVID. None of them helped. And part of this problem was there was poor image quality. There was lack of collaboration. Development of AI, use of AI, evaluation of AI requires a multidisciplinary team. And so a lot of bias resulted in these algorithms. I'm just going to spend 2 slides on MIDRC, the Medical Imaging Data Resource Center. One is a lot of influence of medical physics in this, and I think it stands as a good example. One part of it is open that all of you on this call can download images, scalable curated discovery data commons, which has ingested over 500,000 imaging studies. Basically, we take in images, and in fact, the prior speaker is also a member of MIDRC. We then, medical physicists involved in harmonizing the data, creating and assessing the diversity of the data, and 80% of the data is open to the public. And the reason is, for people to do AI, they need lots of data, and it's very difficult to get lots of data, and this enables others to get data. We also work on interoperability, and we've sequestered the data, which I'll talk about shortly. Medical physicists are critical in the development of these data commons for data quality assessment, harmonization, data models, enabling appropriate training and testing set. In fact, in MIDRC, there's roughly around 25 medical physicists out of the 100 investigators. Another part of MIDRC is we create a lot of tools, and medical physicists are good for solving problems. And here we have these tools to help AI investigators conduct appropriate research. I should point out that MIDRC is led by 3 imaging and medical physics association in the US, and it's funded by NIH and ARPA-H and others. Medical physicists are critical in the development of resources and tools for AI developers and users, I should add. For example, 20% of what we collect is sequestered to enable real-world evaluations so that we can take AI, help translate it through regulatory, such as the FDA, to get to clinical care. For example, some AI vendor may come to us with a specific clinical task in a specific intended population needed to evaluate their AI algorithm before it goes through FDA. So what we will do is then test it within MIDRC, and we will provide them with a report on how well it does. And these are sequestered data that are not being released to the public to ensure independent testing, real world testing. Medical physicists are critical in this robust evaluation and translation of AI through regulatory. Many of us have taken imaging systems, AI systems through FDA, and with that knowledge, we can help others. We need to understand the need for representative data so that the training data sets match the testing data sets, as well as the intended population for AI. So now let's move to, it's essential for the medical physicist to be educated in AI and how it may affect routine clinical practice of medical physics. Now, points 3 and 4 are different, but they're a very subtle difference. So here, the question is, how can AI affect today's practice of medical physics tasks? How can AI help you as a medical physicist in what you do now? For example, medical physicists monitor diagnostic image quality. They monitor exposure from imaging exams. They segment organs in treatment planning and therapy. Could AI help you? And yes, as the prior speaker showed some examples, there are ways where AI will assist you in your current job. So ultimately, the medical physicists using AI in their medical physics tasks will replace the medical physicists not using AI, similar to what we talk about with radiologists and other clinicians. So this is AI coming in your current job to assist you in what you do now. I do want to now touch on the 4th point. Also, it's beneficial to understand how AI could potentially change the current practice of the medical physicist. Basically, as AI enters medicine, the medical physicist will have new responsibilities and new tasks. Basically, the medical physicist and the healthcare organization will have to consider what to do when they introduce AI into clinical practice. For example, introducing AI into radiology or introducing AI in treatment planning. So the medical physicist will have to give the same rigor and attention as when a new imaging device, such as a new CT scanner or a new treatment modality, is introduced. So this is subtly different than the last thing I talked about. Here, this is a new responsibility on the medical physicist checklist and treat it just as another either new imaging system. The medical physicist will play a major role, be one of the leaders in realizing the benefits of AI systems for patients and healthcare systems. And many responsibilities will result from this to ensure a seamless integration with the existing medical infrastructure to optimize AI systems for a specific diagnostic, prognostic, therapeutic test. So I'm going to be taking information from another document from the IAEA that builds on the one that Professor Naqa mentioned. This one we've worked on for the past year and a half. It's currently unpublished. It's in the final, it's going through editorial review. Hopefully it comes out very soon. And it's the next few slides are from there. It's entitled Clinical and Implementation of Medical Imaging AI Tools, Guidelines for Medical Physicists. So these are the guidelines for the clinical medical physicists in both on imaging in both in therapy and diagnostic department. The clinical deployment of AI systems requires an adequate regulatory framework and highly educated, well-trained health professionals to ensure safe, ethical, and beneficial use of such systems. Very similar to a new therapy machine, a new imaging system, etc. So from the course 83, it says 6 main areas of responsibility involving medical physicists and the clinical use of AI across all medical physics specialties can be identified, namely, to be involved in the development of technical specifications of the equipment acceptance and commissioning, optimization of the physical aspects of medical procedures, quality management of the physical, technical, and safety aspects, education and training of other healthcare professionals, and scientific research and development. That's very broad, but let's break it down just a little. I think I have about a minute left. Again, as soon as this IAEA publication comes out, look for it later this year. There's many important words here. With the implementation of AI, the medical physicist should act as one of the leaders, similar to their role when a new imaging modality or new therapy system is introduced into the practice. And this starts from the very beginning. Is there an organizational need? Be a part, and I think it's really important for medical physicists to maintain their leadership role, not as the leader all the time, but part of that leadership team. Be involved in the market research, pre-selection and demonstration, selection and purchasing, installation and clinical deployment, acceptance testing and commissioning, introduction into the clinical setting, quality assurance programs, clinical evaluation and evaluation of the impact on users and clinical workflow, and then at the end of life of that AI system, the decommissioning. So if you looked at this list and you weren't thinking of AI, it makes sense that this is something that medical physicists are involved in. AI should be treated the same way. So I'm going to be stopping soon so we have time for questions, but these are the 4 key points. 1, medical physicists need to understand AI, how to develop it, how to use it, what are the limitations, what are the biases. That's AI. Medical physicists need to be aware of the need for curated and representative data. Data is very important. If you're in practice and you test the AI system on a different set of data that is not representative of the population in your clinical area, and it shows it works or it doesn't work, it might not be a meaningful result. Number 3 is, how can you use AI for you to help you in your current job as a medical physicist, such as tracking the exposure over time. And 4, be aware of when AI is introduced into the larger department, whether it's radiology or radiation oncology, how your role, how your responsibilities will change, and that medical physicists should maintain their leadership role. So I'm going to end. I think we have a lot of time for questions now, and I just want to thank my lab as usual. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Maryellen, for covering the AI and its role mostly into diagnosis and role of medical physicists in generating reliable, robust data based on which the AI will give you the proper results. Otherwise, it's a garbage in, garbage out that you have made it. Also, you have stressed about the role of medical physicists in diagnostic, right from requirement of the institution, what equipment, what designing the requirement of the machines, then QA/QC use, and then finally up to commission, how the medical physicists can play a big role, and that you have shown. And also, both of you have stressed AI is already there in medical physics in all aspects, including the education, and who become conversant, who learn AI, they will continue, they will be relevant to this field. We have almost more than 1,500 participants for this webinar, and we have plenty of questions. Now, very first question I will put, should current clinically qualified medical physicists have a basic coding skill to better understand and use AI-based product in oncology and radiology? And should coding be mandatory in medical physicists for the low income and middle income countries? Coding should be the part of medical physics education if you want to remain relevant into this field.
I can give my opinion, and then Issam can go.
Sure.
We can alternate. As if one is trained in physics, it's very hard not to experience some coding. In some places, while one doesn't, it may not be totally necessary. I would say on a priority list, I would put other things like the items I talked about ahead of that. I think if they can really understand, though, having some coding experience, no matter what it is, though, because medical physicists, we are very organized in our thinking. Chances are people have had some coding, but you don't need to code an AI system. You need to understand. You need to understand the limitations, the potential biases, and you need to do it as one of the leaders in your department. So that's what I was saying.
Basic understanding, not much detail of this thing, depends upon how you grow into the field and you are specialized, then more about the coding. I think Issam also want to add something.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to agree with what Maryellen mentioned regarding this, that I was actually started my career as a software engineer. I don't know for how long this profession would last, because many of the coding snippets you can get from ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on. But the understanding, that, as she mentioned, is actually the key component of how the AI system is developed, and the role you will be playing in the clinic. It's, I mean, not everybody is going to have a Jupyter notebook and look at it. So it is how your role actually shape your use of the code itself. And there is currently tools that allow you to understand software and software engineering. So the profession, if we want to talk about profession at threat, is probably the software engineering coders and with these existing chatbots.
Okay. So then another question is that, can AI help in evaluating students' performance or tailoring personalized learning paths in medical physics? Can it help into the performance assessment and also the evaluation of the learning of the medical physicist? Can it be used?
Well, okay, I'm familiar with a few cases where actually professors use actually to the contrary of this. What they try to use as a software engineering studies is that they give problem tasks and you ask the students to solve them. And if the questions can be seamlessly solved by a chatbot, then that's a failed answer. So asking an AI algorithm to grade the human performance is actually a risky business. There are applications in HR, there are applications in many different areas where even with court triagings, there is a risk benefit and fairness aspects associated with it. It has to be done under the oversight of human observers, because you never know, like Maryellen already touched base on this, what biases exist in the data that can sway the answer one way or another, that we as a human with a more fair-minded type approach may not accept. So,
to grasp the AI for the medical physics student, do you need to have any advanced mathematics or statistics or some languages that should be added into the curriculum at present what we have got?
Well, if you're in if you're in science, if you're a scientist, if you do medical physics, you will have to learn statistics. And I think even statistics many times is a basic course in undergraduate college years. It gives you a very important perspective, because someone will come up to you and say, I got a 83% on my system. Well, that doesn't mean much. I mean, well, that was maybe on Monday. How did it perform on Tuesday? How can you be a medical physicist in evaluating, say, imaging or therapy systems or monitoring performance over time if you don't know statistics? So to me, this is not specific to AI, but it's specific to many things a medical physicist does, including this continuing quality assurance. So many of these questions, I think it might be useful to say, well, do I need this now as a medical physicist in doing departments that don't have AI? And for the biostatistics question, I would say yes, but that's me.
No, with this addition of all the topics and subject, is the medical physics education is going to be very bulky, and do you see that 2 years is enough for completing all this thing, or do you think that it should be, some countries have gone for 3 years master's program in medical physics?
Well, I'm not familiar with what's across the world in all the different countries. I can make my answers relative to the CAMPEP program in the United States, where statistics is required.
Yeah, I think I echo what Maryellen mentioned in that regard. The whole curriculum, in the view of AI presence, need to be revisited and modernized. So something has to give, that, because at the end of the day, you don't want to overwhelm students with information that may never use. It has to be tailored to their role or their expected role in the clinics, with sufficient basics that you can actually self-train in more deeper topics if you need to. So the basics need to be leveled down, areas related to statistics, basic math, which is actually the drivers behind many of these AI algorithms.
That is what
in addition, of course, to the physics.
Yeah. Similar questions are pouring in. Will there be a paradigm shift in medical physics curriculum which needs to be tuned accordingly? What I think is, medical physics basic job is not AI or the machine learning. It is an application of the AI and machine learning into the clinical practice. So basic the radiotherapy physics, diagnostic physics, nuclear, dosimetry, radiobiology, that is going to stay there. What is going to be added is the understanding of AI and the machine learning and how we can implement. I hope both of you will agree to that thing. It is not going to be, curriculum is not going to be completely paradigm shift will be there.
No, I think having maybe a few lectures, half a course or something, they don't have to, like, I think it's very similar to when we talked about the coding, but they have to understand what is expected of the system, how to evaluate it, how to do post-market surveillance on it, how to be able, let me put it this way, how to be able to spot a problem. let's say the AI company comes and upgrades it and tells nobody. And all of a sudden there's more cancers than we thought before. That, just like when images came out and you can look at them, you can do a quality assessment on, you can say the grid's off. They need to be able to problem solve because physicists are problem solvers.
And in precision oncology, radiomics and radiogenomics has come into the clinic. Are there any validated software programs are available which are validated and commercially available which can be used into clinic, or just they are into the research stage?
There are a lot of software tools that use AI or claim to use AI that has been approved. The FDA has approved more than 1,000 tools, and they do include pieces of component that has genomic aspects to it, pathology aspects to it, in addition to the more common medical imaging aspects. How successfully have been used and implemented, it's actually a mixed bag. I can tell you examples of we bought as a cancer center software tools that the people who were supposed to use it never wanted to use it for whatever reason. Is it trust? Is it fear of job competition? You name it. So there are aspects related to the tool validation itself, and there's the aspects related to the trust and the acceptance of the end user to use that tool.
One way I like to look at AI is when you go for your annual physical, you go to the doctors, you get a blood test, and then you get this report that lists all these tests and where your result is relative to the range of normal. That needs to make sure there's some quality assurance. That's kind of like AI to the clinician. The clinician may not understand how all those tests are done, but there is someone there keeping an eye open if those are right. But then I also know clinicians who do that and say, you know what, the blood tests coming this week, the results are a little off, and they call the lab. This is real life. I've seen this. And the lab goes, oh, that's right, we changed this piece. So we always have to be looking for problems. We don't understand how the AI flies the airplane, right? As a customer on the airplane, but we trust it, we use it, and hopefully there's someone there checking to make sure it's being consistent so it can spot problems.
That's a validation.
And I think,
right, go ahead.
No, and I think relative to education, there are many societies that are putting out documents, that are sponsoring webinars. This new one from the IAEA that's about to come out gets into the real details of what, like a checklist of what you should do as a clinical medical physicist in a radiology or therapy department. So there's a lot of education out there. I think we just have to find it and use it.
Last question, because many questions are there. Are there any limitations of AI and the machine learning into medical education, if you foresee that these are the limitations? Beyond that, you cannot stretch much.
I think education would solve any limitations. Understanding and developing these kind of different tier levels would lead to more acceptance and better utilizations of the tool itself. The tool keep evolving at a pace, never any other technology has done, but I think education is the key, which is the talk of these seminars. And like Maryellen referenced, there are several resources out there that can help bridge that gap.
I agree.
Yeah. So thank you very much, both of you, Professor Maryellen and Professor Issam, for sparing the time. Thanks to all the participants, more than 1,500, they participated in this 5-day, everyday webinars. Thanks to IOMP for giving me the opportunity. Thanks to Madan for all the support and technical assistance given. And then again, we meet tomorrow, same time, for the day 4 webinar of IOMP. Have a safe time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.